Factsverse presents 30 Cheers facts that change everything. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss a single video. Cheers was one of the greatest shows in its day, and one of the greatest shows in history. On May 20th, 1993, the gang at Cheers said goodbye to the world when the show's last episode aired. Over the years, there have been many stories printed about the show. Even if you've read every one of them, there's a good chance you still don't know something about the show. Here are 30 things you might not know about Cheers. Cheers almost didn't make it past the first season. Like many iconic shows, Cheers didn't receive great ratings during the first season. The show premiered on September 30th, 1982, and the ratings were dismal. It placed 77th out of 100 shows that week. Fortunately, NBC's entertainment president at the time, Brandon Tartikoff, thought the show was worth it, and he didn't cancel it during its first season. Had he pulled the plug like most people wanted to, television history wouldn't be the same. The Bull and Finch pub. Initially, the bar was supposed to be set in a hotel. The co-creators, Glenn and Les Charles, decided that the show should be set in New England. They chose Boston because there were only 5 TV shows set in Boston, and they were all short-lived. Also, East Coast bars were considered real neighborhood hangouts, which made Boston the perfect setting for the show. The bar that Cheers was modeled from was called the Bull and Finch pub. As the show's popularity rose, it didn't take long for the Beacon Hill Tavern to start being called the real Cheers. To satisfy the masses, a second location was opened in Faneuil Hall in 2011. This bar is called Cheers, and it's a replica of the bar in the show. A year later, the Bull and Finch officially changed their name to Cheers. Sam Malone was originally a professional football player. In the very first script, Sam Malone was an ex-football player. This made sense because at the time, Fred Dryer was the actor considered for the role, and he was a former NFL defensive end. William Devane was also a strong contender for the part. In the beginning, Julia Duffy was being considered for Diane. In the end, Ted Danson and Shelley Long were cast because of the incredible chemistry the two had. When Ted was set to play Sam and he signed his contract, the character became a former baseball player rather than a football player because of his body type. Ted Danson attended bartending school. Playing the role of Sam meant that Ted had to pour out a lot of drinks. To prepare for the role, Ted spent 2 weeks at a bartending school in Burbank, California. Norm and Cliff weren't supposed to be regulars. George Wendt, aka Norm, and John Ratzenberger, aka Cliff, were both auditioning for the same role. It was a minor role of George, and the character has just one line: beer. The character's name was changed to Norm when George was cast. John wasn't about to give up too easily. John was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which isn't too far from where Cheers is set. Before leaving the office, he asked the producers if the bar had a know-it-all. He told them that every New England bar has its regular know-it-all, and this is when Cliff Clavin was born. Norm Peterson is based on a real person. In 2012, the show's co-creator, Les Charles, told GQ that Norm was based on a real person. Les worked in a bar after college, and there was a guy who went in every night. His name wasn't Norm, but he claimed every night that he was there for just one beer. Just like Norm, the man always stayed for more than one beer. When the man's wife would call, he would tell Les to tell her he wasn't there. Norm's never-seen wife is voiced by George Wendt's real wife. Norm's wife is never seen on the show. There's an episode where you can hear her voice, and it's George Wendt's wife, Bernadette Burkett, who lent her voice. Bernadette also appeared on the show once. In Season 3, she played Cliff's love interest. Cliff Clavin's fun facts were often improvised. Most of Cliff Clavin's random and untrue facts were improvised by John. After some time on the show, the writers realized they could trust him to come up with funny and crazy facts, so they just let him go with it. Some of the bar scene dialogue came from real bar conversations. To come up with real-sounding dialogue, the creators of the show would go to Los Angeles bars and eavesdrop on patrons' conversations. In the series premiere, there's an argument about the sweatiest movie ever, and the creators got this from a real bar conversation. Social issues. Cheers writers were never ones to shy away from social issues like alcoholism or homosexuality. In the Season 1 episode titled The Boys in the Bar, one of Sam's old teammates announced that he's gay. The episode helped writer Ken Levine and David Isaacs earn a GLAAD Media Award. Sam almost had an HIV scare. In 1998, the Writers Guild of America went on strike. This meant that some of the planned shows were never filmed. One of them was the Season 6 cliffhanger, where Sam finds out that his former girlfriend is HIV positive. RHEA wasn't the only PERLMAN on set. RHEA Perlman wasn't the only one of her family on set. Her sister, Heidi, produced over 24 episodes between 1985 and 1986. She also wrote several of the shows. Her father, Phil, played a bar regular named Phil. Eddie LEBEC. Jay Thomas played Carla's former hockey star turned ice show performer husband, Eddie LEBEC. When Jay wasn't working on Cheers, he was the host of a popular radio show in Los Angeles. On the show, Eddie was killed by a Zamboni. There was a reason he was killed off. On his radio show, he was asked what it was like to be on Cheers. He said it was brutal because he had to kiss RHEA Perlman. Right after, his character was killed off the show. Cheers did a mini-episode for the U.S. Treasury. Early in the show, the creators were contacted by the U.S. Treasury to create a special mini-episode to promote the U.S. savings bond. It was titled Uncle Sam Malone, but it never made it to TV or on the DVD. It was merely a promotional tool to get people to buy savings bonds. The lost scenes for Super Bowl XVII. In 1983, the writers wrote a unique scene to be part of the 1983 Super Bowl XVII pregame show. In the scene, Sam, Diane, Carla, Norm, Cliff, and NBC announcer Pete Axthelm bet on the game. It ran right before the game, and writer Ken Levine said that he had never written anything that would be seen by so many people. That night, 80 million people saw the scene. It never aired again, and you can't find it on the DVD box set. Ted Danson wore a hairpiece. Ted Danson's character, Sam, was obsessed with his hair. To make his hair look great, he wore a hairpiece. Most people didn't know this until Ted accepted his Emmy without the hairpiece in 1990. In the 1993 episode, It's Lonely on Top, Sam tells Carla about his hair challenges. Viewers often complained the laugh track was too loud. The problem is that they didn't use a laugh track. The show was filmed before a live studio audience, and this is what the viewers were hearing. The role of Frasier was written for John Lithgow. The role of Frasier was initially written for John Lithgow, but he wasn't interested. He had just received 2 consecutive Oscar nominations for The World According to Garp. He was also successful in Blowout and All That Jazz. His career was going full steam ahead, so he didn't want to do TV. Kelsey Grammer ended up with the role, and it made him a huge success. Kelsey Grammer played Frasier for 20 years. Kelsey made his debut on Cheers in 1984. He was supposed to be on the show for a short time, but the fans loved him, so he became a series regular. 4 months after Cheers ended, Kelsey began filming Frasier, and that show ran for 11 seasons. His 2-decade run as Frasier was record-breaking. Tony Soprano's mother was Frasier's mother. Nancy Marchand played both Tony Soprano's mother and also Frasier's. On Cheers, she threatened to kill Diane. In the series Frasier, his mother was played by Tom Hanks' wife, Rita Wilson, in flashbacks. By the time Frasier was on the air, his fictional mother had passed away. Kirstie Alley is the only Cheers star not to appear on Frasier. During Frasier's 11-year run, every one of the Cheers cast appeared on the show, except for Kirstie Alley. Being a Scientologist, Kirstie said that appearing on a show about a psychiatrist conflicted with her beliefs. Frasier's dad changed for the show. When Frasier talked about his father on Cheers, he was also a well-respected psychiatrist and had passed away. In the series Frasier, his father is an ex-cop and played by John Mahoney. Norm's first name is Hillary. Norm's full name on Cheers is Hillary Norman Peterson. Norm drank near beer. The bar on the show was fully functional, but the cast didn't get to spend their day drinking. When Norm was given his ice-cold beer, it was a weakened strain of beer, mixed with a bit of salt to keep the head on the glass perfect. More than once, George Wendt had to consume one of these beers. Woody's name was already set in stone. When Woody Harrelson read for the part of Woody, the director didn't have him in mind first. The fact that his name was Woody and the character's name was Woody was a sheer coincidence. Cheers helped promote designated drivers. No Cheers patron ever drove home drunk. There were many times that calling a cab or a designated driver was mentioned in the show. The Harvard Alcohol Project helped to promote spreading this message. Sam and Diane got married. Because the show was filmed before a live studio audience, the producers had to be sneaky from time to time so that the audience wouldn't leak the storyline. To keep Shelley Long's departure a secret, the live audience watched Sam and Diane get married at the end of season 5. The real ending had Diane leave for 6 months to finish her book. They just didn't want this to get leaked. Spanish version. In September 2011, a Spanish version of the show, also called Cheers, debuted. It starred Alberto San Juan as a former soccer player who started running an Irish pub. The show didn't catch on, and it lasted for 1 season. Ted Danson ended the show. When Ted Danson announced he was leaving at the end of the 1992-93 season, the writers were going to have Woody run the bar. Woody Harrelson didn't want to do the show without Danson, so the series came to an end. The cast got drunk during their send-off. NBC made a major event of the series finale. The cast and crew celebrated at Boston's Bull and Finch pub, and thousands of fans gathered outside to watch the show on 2 jumbotrons. The show ended at 11 p.m., and for the next half hour, the drinks were flowing. The cast cried, hugged, and they got completely drunk. Which one of these facts was your favorite? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe to FactsVerse for more great videos.